front of her home in Drachten. Is that how we say it?
Drachten, yes.
Drachten. And this is where Tiny lived as a young girl with her parents.
We came to live here exactly on the same day that we were occupied by the Germans.
Really?
We moved from other house in this town to this one.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That very day.
That
That
very
was
day.
and that date was May
Yeah.
May 5?
May 10th.
May 10th,
1940.
1940 was a terrible day for Holland.
Yes, that's right. Friesland and
Friesland.
Netherlands.
Netherlands, yeah.
We never say Holland because that is a province.
Teeny telling me before that you woke up in the morning and heard on the radio that the country was under occupation.
I thought it was because I woke up about 4:30 in the morning or 5, and the sky was full of airplanes. So I thought this is wrong. I expected it I expected the invasion from Germany. Yes, I never believed they would let our country alone. The town office, yes. Social affairs. Well, many people were out of work, and so they had to be provided with work. Forced labor, because they were given jobs and they had to go there, and well, people were pretty poor. It was the what do you call it, the depression. We just came from the depression straight into the war. So I worked for that office for a while.
And after the occupation, did that work continue? During the occupation, did you do that same work?
No, I in the summer of 1940, I switched over to the office that was about the distribution of food and clothes and the distribution of everything that was scarce, and most of the things were scarce.
But now the Germans were running that department.
Yes, that's right. But there was no one, no German, not
No.
even a Nazi in our office.
So, Teeny, how did it come that you began to work in the underground?
I was asked.
Quietly.
Yes.
Secretly.
Yes, secretly, yes.
Did you have to think about it?
No,
Did the
I was ready.
How long after May 10th did you begin to work in? Did the underground come together?
Well, it was in the beginning of 1942.
Oh, it was over a year.
Since the
Germans.
Before I really worked in the underground.
Yeah. And before it probably got organized.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah. So it seemed that your job came to be to help the airmen that were on the ground. That's what your...
No, it wasn't that way. I was there for everything in the underground.
Yeah.
For everything, every odd job that was coming up, I had to do it.
Yeah.
And the airmen came in 1943, when a person who took care of the airmen before that was taken prisoner.
Ooh.
Yes. So they needed a new person, and so they got me. I was the only one who could be properly.
For when they were in cars.
Oh yes, when at home.
Yeah, at home.
My home.
So now,
Yes,
but now
okay.
where were we?
If
You
you-
took a dangerous job. That's where we stopped.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so what doesn't she say in the...
Yeah.
Ja.
Yes.
Ja. Kom je uit Nee, ik wezen.
Oh.
Ik riet je wat de dames zeggen. Ja. Nou, leuk.
Ja, best.
Hartstikke mooi.
Ja.
Hè? Er werd het postkantoor stond net.
Oh ja.
Ja.
Ja, daar kom je.
Ja.
Daar beneden, no?
Ja, een naaie flat, hè?
Ja. Ja. Oké, mooi.
Ja, tuurlijk. En ik wil
wel gezellig.
Ja, ik wil gewoon wennen eerst.
We zijn al, wij zijn dus het ziende maaien wie de oorval. Nou ben die in feite, nou de oorval van Duitsland hier, nou die kwam binnen. En de 12e ben we in mijn verhuizen.
Ja, ja. Ja, die platen mag die daar in kort staan.
You had just moved to that house.
That's right, yes.
And then I asked you if you had any hesitation when you were asked to join the underground, and you said no. Then you told me that you replaced someone who had that job of taking care of that. And it was
That's
a
right.
year or so that you lived under the occupation before the underground got organized.
That's right,
About a year.
yes,
And-
yes.
Yeah. Probably I would have asked you, were you able to, you kept your day job?
Yes, that's right.
And so you did most of this in the evening?
In the evening, yes, and you had a Saturday afternoon, which still was a free afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I took a vacation
Uh-huh.
for 1 week or for 2 weeks and did some things then. And moreover, they got used to that I was absent once in a while for a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's dank u wel, Eddie.
Did
That was how things worked.
Did they never suspect you, the Nazis?
They did in the end, because that was in March 1944. That was also because of the crash of that B-24.
With the
And
9 men?
then I was warned by some man who was working in a police office.
Semi?
Yes.
What's that mean?
Well, he was special for farm things. The farmers had to give in cows. They had to have papers for this and for that, and they had to deliver so many cows and so much this and that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he looked after.
Yeah.
And he warned that I better disappear from my home, from where my parents lived. You can better go, he said, because they suspect something, and well.
And did you leave?
I left, yes.
Where did you go?
First of all, I went to the farm south of Drachten, and I did not get out of that house during the daylight unless I had to go to Amsterdam or The Hague or Arnhem, wherever, to do some messages. And
You didn't do your daily work then?
no, I didn't I left my daily work, yeah. And so did my boss.
Mm-hmm.
He also left his daily work because he was warned too.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I lived in several places. Then in one village, then in another, then in Leeuwarden, then in Snake, wherever I was needed, and when I could find a place to stay, people who would take me in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
So it was dangerous for you?
it was dangerous, yes. It was dangerous, yes.
Yeah. Of course.
But it was not only because of the airmen. I mean, that was just a small part of my work anyway. And because once they were taken in a safe house in some village, I mean, the local people could look after them and ask how they were and provide them with whatever they needed, and that could be gotten. And
so I could do my other work for the underground. For instance, in the beginning, in 1943, we were quite busy with Jewish people and Jewish children who went into hiding, and they had to find safe places where they could stay, and they had to be provided, for instance, with coupons for everything that you need to buy their food.
Yeah.
And other things they
Did you make those, someone counterfeit them? Made them up, the coupons?
No. They were stolen by the underground. The armed part of the underground, they had raids on distribution offices and also on town halls where they had these things, and sometimes most times they were helped from inside with information.
Yeah.
And otherwise they just they got these coupons, and so they could be used. And if we had too many, sometimes they got so much that we had too many, and then I took them to places where they were needed most.
Yeah.
And also when we had no arms, but when a policeman wanted to leave the service and also disappeared, we asked, can we have your uniform, can we have your weapon? But then I had to go and fetch the weapons and take them to our group. So they in the end they had anyway some pistols to work with, and they very seldom used them. But I mean, you can put people up their legs just by pointing a pistol at them.
Sure.
And they shot some police officers and others that became too dangerous for the underground, because they were people that went to the Germans and said there and there they have Jewish people in the homes, so and so works in the underground, and so on. I mean, they were betrayers.
Sure. And,
Yeah.
and they were shot.
Just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes did your underground gather and meet? Could you meet in people's houses and talk and
No.
make your plans?
Yes, they did that with very small groups,
Yeah.
just 3 or 4 maybe, and discuss what should be done and what should not be done, and what would be the best policy for this and that. That's right, yes, but never with many.
No, that would be dangerous.
Oh yes.
And sometimes you went with the people when you put them on the trains,
Yes,
the soldiers.
the airmen. Yes. What happened was then there was an organization that took care of the airmen, and it had contacts along the whole route in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in France, some in Switzerland, and in Spain. And then I was warned by my contact person in Friesland when I could, when some airmen could get through. And they knew who were there, because as soon as airmen were tracked, they asked us who are they, their name, their rank, the serial number, and their mother's maiden name. And that was sent to by wireless radio, very small.
Someone had that.
To London. So they knew who were on their way, and then you got a message so and so can come on the road back to England. And then they had to be, it was just a string of pearls. On every part of the road there was a guide.
Yeah.
So, and I was in the beginning of the road because I only had mine.
Yeah.
And I took them to the station, provided them with tickets for the train.
Identification
Yes,
card?
they got identification cards.
that were
And-
made up in the offices.
Pardon?
The identification cards were
Were stolen
counterfeit.
too.
They were stolen.
Yes, or they were counterfeited.
Sure.
Yeah, and same they do nowadays. and they got another name, a Dutch name, and they had to remember that. And the place where they were born, we usually gave them the birthplace Snake, because it was very easy for them to pronounce that.
Yeah.
We came through Snake today,
Oh.
yes. So we could put them in Snake. But well, if they had really asked them anything, I mean, it would have fallen through anyway.
Oh, yes.
But they were told, whatever happens to you on the way, let yourself get caught, but never let know that you belong with me. That you know me or
Oh,
any
yes.
way or another. I said, well, that's a pity then, but but you go to a concentration camp and I probably get shot.
And
Or not to a concentration but POW camp.
yeah. And some of them did get caught.
Yeah, oh, many.
Many. And went to Germany. And do you think any of them weakened and revealed any names?
No, never did.
They
no,
never
they
did.
never did. We never found out that anybody ever said. We always told them, if they asked where you were been all this time, never tell them, not even the King of England. We think that the King of England is trustworthy, but you don't know who's standing behind him. His footman might be wrong. So, I mean, they never did. I mean, that sank too well, I think. Because in Antwerp was a betrayer. And he lived in Canada. Before the war, he happened to be in Germany. Before Germany started that war.
Yeah.
He was there. And he seems to have offered himself as a help for them.
And he
Against-
spoke good German.
Yes. And
But he was Canadian or Belgian?
Canadian, but he was put in Belgium,
Yeah.
in Antwerp, in an office, and he spoke English perfectly. He even knew all about airplanes and airplane training. He could talk to them on an even foot.
To the
And,
airmen.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to that man?
No, fortunately not. He, I found only out what happened after the war.
Yeah.
Because when I took these people, for instance, to Eindhoven by train, these airmen, there was another man or woman who had a certain token or something on which to be recognized.
Yes.
And I walked up to him or her, shook hands with him and says, how do you do? All right, okay. And then I walked through, I walked off and went to the other platform and took the next train back.
Yeah.
That was the last I saw of them. I didn't say goodbye, I didn't wink to the airmen, nothing. And then when they were in Eindhoven, they got other papers for Belgium. And the same thing happened again if they came through for France. in the south of Belgium, and then they took the night train to Paris. Quite a few came to Paris too, as far as Paris. There has been a time that there was no contact between that man in Antwerp and the Belgian underground for one reason or another. Must have been. You never can exactly find out what happened.
You're saying a lot of them went direct to Paris and
Yeah.
bypassed Belgium.
Yeah,
So
yes.
they didn't fall afoul of this man who was a turncoat. But many of them, you lost many in Belgium then.
Yeah, many later on, after the war, when you asked these airmen, you wrote them a letter or what happened to you? Because they didn't have our address, they didn't know where they were,
Yeah.
in the safe house. And so, I mean, then you wrote to them and said, what happened to you? Well, quite a few of them were taken in Antwerp. Some of the later ones who went later were caught in Amsterdam. For one reason or another, they were sent through Amsterdam. And I don't know.
You don't know.
What happened there, but the man in Belgium, after the war, he was condemned to death and executed.
So you say you know of 80 that were back in their own countries, United States, Canada, and some in Great Britain.
After the war.
After 80. But you must have helped more than that who died along the way, huh? 80.
Yes.
80 people.
Yes.
Did all 80 get back home?
They all got back home safe and
Yeah.
well.
Well, how about the ones that got stuck in Belgium or went to a POW camp?
And, most of them were taken to POW camp.
Most of them were.
Oh yes, most of them were, and I think I still don't know exactly what happened, but and after the war I wasn't so much interested for what happened exactly, but I remember that when I was in the United States in 1947, I happened to meet an American officer I knew, and I met him on Broadway. They always say, walk down to Broadway,
And you bumped into him.
You meet someone you know. Well, I met him.
Did you?
Yeah, and
Had he been a prisoner? Had he been?
no, he hadn't been a prisoner. He was one of one or another committee in The Hague after the war that asked us, whom have you had? Where have they been?
Yeah.
Whom can we do a pleasure with paying them for room and board, etc.
Oh.
Well, nobody wanted anything.
You didn't take anything.
No one in the Netherlands ever wanted anything for it.
No.
And except one woman I knew about, her husband was a taxi chauffeur, and he did many taxi drives with airmen and other dangerous people. And he was killed. He died in a concentration camp. She was left with small children. They said, if you take care of those children, that they get a good upbringing, and that's what they did.
Did they?
Yeah. And so
you asked that man on Broadway something.
and he said, what happened? He said, we probably never know. But
That's right.
I had the impression that they were sloppy in London for one reason or another. Maybe they found a reason in that we have to fight a war and put all our attention to that, and well, sorry about those airmen, and sorry about those underground workers. That happened in more occasions.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. I don't know exactly why they didn't warn us. Why they didn't warn us when they got information that so and so were on the way back to London.
Why they didn't warn you or tell you who made it and who didn't?
Well, why didn't you simply say there were quite a few coming, but so few arrived? Where are they?
Yeah, yeah. But
I mean, you would have there would have been much more suspicion.
Right, you would have maybe found the loose connection yourself.
That's
then.
right, yes.
Yeah. But you do know of 80 that survived the war
Yes,
through your group efforts.
yes. Anyway, they were not worn out when they came in the POW camp. They had experienced that there were people in Europe, in occupied Europe, that cared for them and that took care of them. They knew that. I mean, that's an idea that gives you strength.
Yes.
Then on the other hand, usually they were fed very well, even better than their hosts.
Yeah.
They were fed very well and taken care of when they
were in good health.
when they came out of the plane with a sprained ankle or something like that,
Yeah.
or a broken pulse. I mean, they were taken care of. They came in POW camp in good shape.
Yeah, yeah. And that helped them to survive.
And that helped. I'm pretty sure that helped. Some said so.
Yes.
He said
Sure.
we came in good shape in the POW camp and were not too unhappy.
And none of them were shot in the POW camp.
Pardon?
They were not killed in the POW.
Oh no!
Because they wanted
They were treated
exchange.
much better than I had ever expected.
Were they?
Yes.
Wonder why that is.
Oh well, because the Germans POW in England and in the United States, they were treated well.
And they wanted them to go home alive. Yeah, and not dead. Of some of the people that you had that you helped, it could not have all been sweetness and roses. Some of them must have been frightened,
Yeah.
angry,
Sad.
sad.
Most of them lost their friends in the crash.
Right, yeah, so you must have had some problems to deal with the airmen themselves.
They had.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a friend of mine, I mean, not all of the airman helpers were killed, but there has been a big process in the beginning of 1944, I think, for quite a few people that had been caught for helping enemy personnel, that's what it's called, and they were all condemned to death. But most of them ended up in a POW camp, in a concentration camp anyway. They were treated badly there and died there. But there were a couple of girls too.
Now wait, are we talking about Dutch people here?
Yes,
Oh.
and they were helpers of the airmen in the other parts of the country.
Oh, they were helping the airmen.
Yeah.
And they ended up in concentration camp.
And also there was a girl. She was only 19. She was caught in Amsterdam, and she was condemned to death too. There were 3 women. Yes, 3 women, and they were sent from one camp to one prison to another camp to another prison, and their sentence always followed them and never caught up with them.
Oh.
So the prison directors and the POW of the concentration camp, they never knew what to do with them.
You called that shadows and fog.
Yes.
How do you say that in Dutch?
Oh yes. They were Nacht und Nebel,
Yeah.
night and fog.
Yeah.
Prisoners.
Night and fog.
Yes.
Nobody wanted to deal with them.
No.
Nobody wanted to kill them. Nobody wanted to do anything. So they just moved them along.
Yeah, they moved them along, and there's a story that one of the prison directors didn't want to kill these women, and I don't know, but he found some way out.
Yeah.
And
But I wanted to ask you.
she ended up in near what is now the German-Polish border, in a concentration camp,
Yeah.
and with women from all over Europe, French and Greek, and what they did at night they sang, she says, and
To
they
keep up their spirits.
and they talked to each other. They told each other recipes, wonderful recipes of wonderful food.
Oh.
And they got cloth to clean their cells, etc.
Yeah.
And then they put parts of it, and they put threads from their coats or from their clothes or underwear, and then they embroidered them. And put also pudding on it and steak and they sang.
I wonder if there's been a book written about that.
Yes.
Has there?
But no, there's not a book.
That's a wonderful story.
Oh, it's a wonderful story about those strong women who didn't know if they would live the next day.
Absolutely.
But especially at night when it was the worst time of the day, they used to sing.
Yeah.
And there was a lady, a French lady, who was wonderful in telling the story of a movie in French, in beautiful French, and she told the whole story of a movie.
Yeah.
So they went to the movies, you know. And she
Isn't
told that
that
story.
something?
Yeah.
How do you know this?
Fun?
How do you know about that?
From her, she lives here on Monaco, one of the islands here north.
Does she?
I met her for the first time after the war, when we both got that Medal of Freedom. She
Yeah.
got it with gold palm, right? She said that. I got it with silver.
Yeah.
But I mean, on that occasion we met.
She's French, though.
No, she's
Dutch.
Yes,
she's Dutch. But she told you about the French woman who took them to the movies every night. Boy, that's a one. Wouldn't that make a movie? A story
That would
like
make
that
a
of
movie,
bravery.
yes.
I hope somebody gets
Yes,
her story.
Yeah.
You know, I know you told me before lots of individual stories about each one of them, but I think we can do that too, but I think there must have been something about you that let you do all this work. Not everybody is made for this. Not everybody's made
No,
for this
not
kind of
made for
work.
this. No.
No.
That's right.
And I know that you don't want to talk about yourself, but it must be, as your daughter Rick said, some qualities you have of having good common sense and being cautious
Yes.
and careful. And at age 18 or 19, that's something. And also being brave and not being afraid to go ahead and do the right thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, you would have fallen by the wayside long.
No, that's right. And well, I think that are the reasons that my boss asked me.
Yes.
Yes.
He saw what you.
Yeah, he knew who I was and what I was,
Yes.
and what I was capable of, and
Whoever would have thought that you as a young girl, that you could do all of that?
yeah, but I mean, the idea of being overrun and being overwhelmed and being humiliated can be so strong that the only thing you know is
Resist.
resist. Yes,
In an effective way.
in an effective way, do something. I mean, just sit and wait till it's over. I don't know. But I mean, I think it has, and I was not married, and I did not have a responsibility for anybody. That also makes a difference. Because if I look at my mother, I think she was really brave, and it was very much more a sacrifice for her than for me. She was at home, a sitting duck, with a Jewish girl, sometimes for a while also with a Jewish boy. then with the Americans, then with the people of the underground who wanted to be fed and who wanted to their clothes washed and darned and
So she had a full-time job.
it is a full-time job and then always being on your alert.
Yeah,
Who is coming at the door?
yeah,
Who's walking twice or three times in front of our house?
yes,
What is that noise at night? I mean,
Yes. Oh.
at night you couldn't look out because all your windows were blinded,
yes,
so that no bit of light could shine out of the house.
uh-huh,
And outside it was pitch dark when the moon wasn't there.
uh-huh,
I mean, and at that time you could hear boots bumping on the road or a car coming.
yeah,
And then, well, usually a car was the car was a German car.
sure,
I mean, all those things. And my mother was there. I could move. If I didn't trust the situation anymore, I just took my bicycle and went to another place. And usually I knew one person there whom I could ask, do you know somebody who has a bed and a meal for me?
and your father too was brave.
Yes, my father too. And he was very good in entertaining the airmen.
Yeah,
Playing chess with them,
Yeah.
talking with them. I mean, my dad never came further than elementary school, but he knew he learned English just by talking it. He didn't know what it looked like. He couldn't read it, but he could talk. Oh yes,
and
and he liked to talk with them. But he had been an engineer in cars and motors and things like that. Before in the Depression, he lost his business
Yeah.
and went over to a tobacco store.
Yeah.
But I mean, my dad know all about machines. Well, he asked the airman tell him all about the machines of an airplane, things like that. I knew the words for the parts. And I mean, my dad wasn't, and then what Carl told you, Frank is Roman Catholic, and my daughter thought, well, Roman Catholics fast on Friday and then they eat fish, and then my dad went fishing, so Frank could have fish on Friday.
oh, that is something. Yes, I remember that story.
Yeah,
Was your brother involved in the underground also
he became involved. Yes.
afterwards?
Yeah,
later.
he
on?
was younger. He was 5 years younger than I was.
Uh-huh.
But he became involved later, yes.
And I wanted to ask you, when they were shot down by German aircraft, or were they shot down from the ground?
Usually they were shot down by German aircraft. You could watch.
Yeah, you could see it
Yes,
happening.
you saw these fighters from the Leeuwarden Air Base up in the air, waiting for a plane that had some engine trouble or something and stayed behind,
Uh-huh.
and getting at it as a hawk on a dove, and shooting the plane up, and then all of a sudden you saw smoke come out of the plane, and all of a sudden he started turning slow and faster, and then we were watching the plane, the parachutes that were coming out of the plane, and how many are there? Are there 10? Seldom 10. So, I mean, if you that 10% of all those planes that went to Germany crashed.
Is that right?
Yeah,
10%.
I mean look, 40 planes, 400 men.
Most of them had a crew of 10.
Yeah, most of them had a crew of 10.
Uh-huh. Well, you only spoke once about 10. Usually about the 9 that you put up in the houseboat. Usually you spoke about 1 or 2.
Yes.
Well, if there were always 10, were there always 10 when they came down? No.
No, because there were 10 in that plane.
Were there?
So if there were not 10 parachutes, some would be dead.
I see. I see.
Or some must have jumped before they were in our side. Was possible too.
So usually you had more than one airman that came down. at
Oh
a
yes,
time.
usually there were about 5.
About 5.
5 or 6 that we got.
Yeah.
There were also ones that came down right in the middle of a village with everybody around. Well, you couldn't possibly save them.
No, the Germans would get them.
I mean, there were so many people around. You couldn't risk your life somebody said, well, she was there and she took no. I mean, if they came down right in the middle of a town or in a village, forget about it.
Yeah.
It was the ones that landed in somebody farmer's land.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me again about the one, there are 2 that I remember most colorfully. The one whose grandmother was from here, so I want you to talk a little bit about him. His grandmother was Frisian.
Yes.
And the second one that became your boyfriend, so you could ride together on the bicycles.
That was the same one.
Oh, was he? That's right. Okay, so tell us about that.
Oh, that was, yeah, he came down pretty near Drachten, in a field.
By himself?
Yes, by himself. The others, I've never known any, from that plane, I only got one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened to the others.
Yeah.
And yet then, well, maybe we had some later, but I'm afraid we only got him. His name was Merlin Verberg, and he was taken in by a farmer. And there was a man from Drachten happened to visit that farmer. He was on a bicycle, and well, they took this American in, and took his uniform and the parachute away, and dumped everything in the dung heap at the side of a farm, and gave him civilian clothes, and then he kept his dog tag, of course. They always kept the dog. They could be identified.
Yeah.
And then I was warned by a policeman, a good policeman, that there and there on that farm there was an American. Well, I thought I might as well go there, so I went there on my bicycle, and I came, and yes, it was Merlin. Okay, and yeah, well, I thought the best place I can take is at my mother's. I mean, Frank was gone already, and yeah, and so it was 1943, yes, and this man that was a visitor said he can have my bicycle. So but I mean, it was pretty sure that there were already Germans and policemen around
Looking
looking for him, because the plane did not crash too far away from him. So they would be in the surroundings, and we had to go via some small roads to the high road. And you saw people standing there, you didn't know who they were. And I said to him, well, repeat that? Put your arm around me.
Okay.
I said to him, put your arm around me. I said, no policeman, no German in his right mind would expect an airman who came down just recently to have already a boyfriend, a girlfriend. So we passed everything, and we came home safe and sound.
Yeah.
And he said, he's Merlin, okay. Well, he was a good-humoured sort of fellow.
Was he?
Yes, and he was eating. Well, in that evening we had bread and I don't know what, but we had something to eat, and we were around the table, and we were talking. My father, my mother, my brother, I. Evelyn talked Dutch, but she understood Frisian perfectly. And then all of a sudden he listened very carefully, and he said, "What's it you talking?" He said, "Is it leven jongen? Pak een slokje?" I said, "Merlin, do you talk Frisian?" He said, "Yes, my grandmother came from here, and she said she learned me those things."
Oh, isn't that something?
And that was something.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, you're back in the land of your grandmother. Can't be too bad." And anyway, I mean, we had fun with him. He was really a good-humored fellow,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And where was he from?
he was from Grand Rapids.
Oh, and has he died now?
He died a couple of years ago. Then he lived in Santa Ana,
California.
in California. Yes,
Mhm.
we visited him in 1986.
How did you happen to have all their addresses?
We put them down, and my dad put them in a can and hid them under the strawberries in the garden.
Wow. Yeah, that's something too. That's something.
So, even when my parents went in hiding too, I mean, they were safe under the strawberries.
Yeah. Your parents went in hiding?
Oh yes, yes.
Well, did they not stay in their house?
No, they had to go in hiding too. They were warned, and so they left and went to a farm near the Veenhoop where we were visiting the little house. But it was in winter, and they were staying with a farmer who was a friend of my dad. And first of all, they had left Evelyn with friends in Drachten, but then Evelyn joined them too.
And she's your Jewish sister.
And she, you know what she said? "Well, now I'm twice underground."
Yes. Yes.
And she really was.
Yeah.
Yes, she really was twice underground. And
Well, did they take your brother with them when they went?
my brother was already in hiding.
He too.
Yes, sure. He came. He came in Workum, Workum, in a hotel, and he worked in the kitchen there and helped them, and they helped in the underground, and they also had one of those airmen from the the same B-24 over there, and even that was funny. I mean, it was a very wet winter in the beginning of 44, 45, and it was it? Yes, 44, 45, and the Germans who were in a camp with tents outside Workum, they couldn't stay there any longer, so they delivered them to his hotel, and they were in the big room like this, and then there came a car with 5 Americans from B-24, but also Milo Reim and Ed Pollock and Max Weinstein, and so they were shoved through the door, and his wife, he wasn't at home, the
Whose
man
wife?
of the hotel,
Yeah.
and his wife put him in another room. So we had the Americans in one room and the Germans in another room. So he said, I came home, and my wife said, "Well, there's no room full of Americans there." So he said, I went into the big room, and he
Where
said,
the Germans
and I
were.
said, "Guten Abend." Alles gut? Ja, and he said, I went to the other room and said, "Good evening."
That was
some funny things like that happened, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they were distributed among farmers and villages in townspeople in Workum, yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, well, first of all, they wanted them back so badly, they said, from London. But then when
They wanted them back so badly.
Yes,
to
But
fly
then-
more planes.
But then when it was against the invasion, we didn't know the invasion was coming, but they said, keep them there. If you, whatever you, just at Pollock and Milo were the last ones that I took by train. And they were caught in Amsterdam. And
But I thought you said the British said to keep them.
yes, they said, and the Americans too, said keep them there, because it was so busy coming and going across the lines between the German front and the Allied front, from people from the underground who came with information, from people who wanted who had to get away because things got too dangerous, cross the lines. They usually with a boat across one of the big rivers to the Allied side, and it was busy coming and going there, so they couldn't have the airmen with them. He said keep them there, so they stayed till the day of the liberation.
No, but you said just now that 2 of them you put on the train and they got caught in Amsterdam.
Yes, that's right. That was Ed Pollock and his co-pilot.
Yeah, but I thought I thought that the people told you to keep them.
Yes, but
You
they
said
were the last ones that were...
Oh, they were the last ones.
Yeah,
You put them
they-
on the train.
yeah, I put
Who's
them on the
Max
train.
Weinstein?
Huh?
Max Weinstein.
That was the bombardier of Ed Pollock.
He must have been Jewish.
He was. And what happened to him, he was staying with the old postmaster of Workum, the boer, and his wife, and he learned to spin wool on with the spinning wheel.
He learned to spin wool.
Yeah, but he was very restless, very restless. He set off by himself.
Yeah.
He went out by himself, and goodness, he made it.
Did he?
He got in hands of in the south of the Netherlands. He approached a Roman Catholic priest, and that good man took him in again.
Wow.
And then, but he was taken prisoner anyway, but which was maybe not so bad. I mean, because when you saw Max Weinstein, I said, why can those allies take care that we do not get Jews that look so very Jewish? I mean, we have enough trouble with our Jews.
So a sense of humor must have helped you through all
Oh
this.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but a lot to laugh always.
That's sometimes the only thing that you could do. And did you have also, sometimes when you're in a movement, usually when you're in a movement for the good, you have a good sense of community. A good sense of community
Yes, but
among yourselves.
among yourselves. I mean, we have reunions once a year from the underground people.
Do you?
In Friesland? Yes, they're less and less and less. Of course, they die off. But and I have underground friends who live in Canada. But anytime you have them on the telephone, or when they come and visit, or when we come there and visit, you just talking again the last time you left.
What you left off with.
I mean, and it's not the kind that everybody you would have as a bosom friend or something. No, but I mean the idea that for a time in your life you have been felt responsible for each other. And responsible for each other's lives.
Yes.
That you knew if I get caught, they'll try everything to get me out.
Right.
I mean, whether they succeeded or not, but I mean they would do everything in their possible in their mind to help you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that idea that makes a bond for life.
For life.
And that's the same with the airmen.
Yeah.
If I know, I kept up a close contact with just a few of them, because you couldn't possibly keep up with all of them. But with a few, we always kept into contact. They treat me like family.
Yes.
Also their children and their grandchildren do.
Yes.
And that's great, you know.
Yes.
I was so grateful when Carl was dying already, that we could say goodbye and farewell and see you some other time again. I mean, that was so good. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I remember that you said the story of in your book, you were the woman with the green hat, huh?
Yes.
And why was that?
Well, I mean, to be recognized.
Right.
They said there will come a lady with a green hat.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my green hat. It was very green, an awful hat, but it was very green.
Very
I
green.
wore that for a while, and I remember after the war, one of the guides I met on that track through the Netherlands to Belgium, that she said, "Oh, are you that girl with that awful green hat?"
Yeah. And also, you made your Jewish sister's family feel at ease by going to visit them, right?
That's
you
right.
told me
Yes,
that
that's
in
right,
writing.
yes.
Why don't we
Yes.
talk a little bit about that? That's
Well,
a very good.
I mean, of course, you could imagine her parents. She was the only girl of her parents, and her parents were already pretty old when they got her, maybe 30s. Nowadays it's normal, but then it wasn't. And then she was 7, and then some person that means you very well comes to your door and says, comes to you and says, you must give your child to the underground so she can have a safe place where she can stay and not be deported to Poland. And you have to disappear too, but do not disappear, the 3 of you.
What
And
town
so-
were they living in?
Pardon?
What town were they living in?
Then The Hague.
Oh.
The Hague. And then and then there comes a lady you do not know, and she picks up your child, and you see it walking out of that long street. That little girl, with her backpack and her dolls, and you see it going out of that street. I mean, you can only imagine what that is. And then they heard by an accident that she was in Friesland. And they were, most Frisians are blonde and blue-eyed. And then they thought, oh my. And then we got via,
You got what?
Via people, we got the information that her parents were very, very, very concerned because she
Worried.
was in Friesland. They had heard she was in Friesland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were talking about that in one evening when we talked a lot in the evening around it because
You were in the privacy of your home.
on my home I said, what are we doing that about? I said, the only thing I know is showing my black hair and my brown eyes in The Hague.
Mm-hmm.
Without telling them who I are and where we live.
Yeah.
And so I went there.
You knew where her parents were.
Well, I found out where her parents were, and I went to see her parents. And I said to them, you were worried about, she was with the blonde, blue-eyed Frisians. I said, no, she's with me. And she said, she even looks like you. I said, yes, she looks like me. She looks like my mother. Because then I saw that her mother was a blonde Jewish, but with blue eyes. Her father
But you
was
didn't
dark.
give your name.
Pardon?
You didn't
No,
give-
I'm Tiny. That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
A short visit.
pardon?
It was a short visit.
It was a short but very, very impressive, emotional visit for me too. For them it was, because I was the trade union between that little girl and them
Mhm,
at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can imagine what it is, and then of course, the liberation came,
I wanted to ask about that.
and then you wondered who was alive and who was not, because everybody, so many people had been sent to concentration camps. Would they come back? Wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? And especially the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
Were they alive or were they not?
Not many.
Not many. So, so you didn't know whether the girl's parents were still alive.
Uh-huh.
And then we heard they were.
Uh-huh.
And they hiked to Drachten.
They what?
They hiked.
Hiked?
Yes, but they could drive with it was I think a
hitchhike.
military car that picked them
Yeah.
up and
Uh-huh.
and brought them in, and they came to Drachten, and then they found my parents' house, and there they were reunited,
Mm-hmm.
and then the mothers and the fathers had to deal with that little girl. I mean, my mother and my father had to say goodbye after 2 years.
Yeah.
Those people came there with the child who was 2 years older, had been living with us, not in a Jewish family, and
Hard for everybody.
it was, but they stayed with us for a couple of days,
Good idea.
and they went out on bicycles all together,
Yeah.
because they wanted to visit the people that he had been kind to her, to her, their little daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So they visited the people that had been kind to her little daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and then she got used to her parents again, and my parents realized they had to hand her over,
Mm-hmm.
being thankful to God that they managed to
Yeah.
keep her alive.
And
then-
she lives now in Israel.
No, she lives in Amsterdam now.
Oh, does she?
Yes, her son lives in Israel.
Oh.
He called me day before yesterday.
Did he?
Yeah, he wanted to know whether my book was in English, because his wife Rachel is a Jewess who comes from India. She speaks English and Hebrew, but not she cannot read Dutch. And then all of a sudden I said, Louis, you've got an internet. I said push my name in it.
Yeah.
I said, and if you're lucky, you find an article about me
Yes.
in the magazine World War II.
Right. Uh-huh.
And yes, that's
And
right.
about your
I said,
book.
anyway, Rachel can read that.
Well.
So
yeah.
Rachel.
Well, I hope that your editor gets it translator for English. Gets it
Yeah.
published in English.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So,
Well,
if we wind up a little bit here, and if we think of something else tomorrow, we can do something at the Resistance Museum.
I told them already, my publisher already. He said, I said, I'm not entirely unknown in the United States. He said, if you find on internet, push my name in it, you find an article about me. They find an article about me, and they know some essentials, and so I mean they do not want to translate a book from a totally unknown author. And so they said, and I have people who in the United States who can give advice in one way or another. I said, I mean, I'm not exactly entirely unknown in the United States.
No.
Moreover, I have that beautiful medal. Sometimes I don't even know where it is, but.
But Tini, talk a little bit about how that experience of yours when you were young affected you for the rest of your life.
Well, I don't think that. Yes, it gave you a sense of that there are dangers in this world, and that is all attacks against freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom from you. Well, the four freedoms. I mean, and you want to. It's always in your mind with everything what you do, that you don't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Attacks on freedom, and that's the main part that moves me. What also moved me to go to the schools and tell the students about the war experiences. What happens to you when there's a dictator?
Mm-hmm.
What happens? And now also when there is when we have to vote for parliament,
Mm-hmm.
or for even for the city council,
Mm-hmm.
and then people say, my vote doesn't count and I'm not going there. Then I tell them, I've lived in a country for 5 years, listen to me, that when there was nothing to vote.
Yeah.
They just told you what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they told you what not to do. And if not so, I mean, that was so much the worse for you. I said, when you have been through that, you'll vote anytime you get the possibility, because you're grateful you can vote.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, things like that. I mean, they
You do a lot of work for Amnesty International too. Do you
I do,
still write
yes,
letters?
I write letters for Amnesty International. I mean, that's
you write several a week, I think, don't you?
no, that's not true. Once in 2 weeks or something,
Yeah.
you get. I'm in such a group of people that does what they call it. People have to be governments have to be informed in a hurry. This and this is happening to that and that. Will you please find out what it is?
Yes.
Will you please find out if this has been punishable according to so and so of the United Nations, etc.
So you have to respond quickly when you get that
Oh
call.
yes, you have to respond quickly, and
Yeah.
and I'm not that quick because some do it straight way through internet.
Yeah. With email.
But
yeah. You do it this way.
I send a letter yet.
Yeah.
Well, I think when my letter come, they remind again that they go. Oh yes, a couple of days ago we got the internet letters.
Yeah. Yeah.
They might have forgotten by that time.
Right. And you've written like.
This poem is called Concentration Camp, and my mom wrote this in 1972. And then to think, my friend, in this stinking, dusty place of execution, with people of tomorrow, nothing but dust and evil smell. And then to think, my friend, that somewhere at this moment, a small bed of parsley breaks the earth gallantly. A woman in a white, clean apron looks at it and smiles. And then there is in het same poem KZ. En dan te bedenken, maat, op dit moudige, stjonkende strafplak, mijn meesken van morgen al, neert als moude en stank. En dan te bedenken, maat, dat ene op dit stuit een beetje pieterselie opkomt. Een vrouw met een skinnen skelk stilt er naar de sjen. So that was the translation in Frisian.